1,
1,
2,
2,
3,
3,
4.
4.
All right, eat your mic and turn the gain down, and then we should be good to go.
Turn the gain down.
Probably on your mic or...
Oh, just turn the mic down.
Yeah, just turn it down. You don't need to have it so hot.
There it is.
Welcome to the Fringe Youth Worker Podcast with TJ and Sonny.
Hello and welcome to the Fringe Youth Worker Podcast. After a week hiatus, we are back. My name is TJ McConaughey, and I am joined, as always, by my best friend, Sonny Saltalamacchia. Sonny, what's going on?
Throwing out the script, TJ. Coming in with newfound vengeance towards working with youth in a healthy way. Vengeance towards the stuff they have to deal with. We had to take a week hiatus because you were in another country. Welcome back. I'm glad they let you back in. That's always a risk. And
I'm
happy to be back, bro.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back as well. I just kind of wanted to state right in the front of this thing that every once in a while we're going to take a week off. Some of you randos, you can't handle that, but we actually have to do youth work. And so when we take weeks off, we do appreciate that you guys are waiting for an episode, but know that a good one's coming because we've been out.
Did you see how Paul Craven was on there, all complaining about it? But hey, Paul, check it out, bro. You're beneath Andrew Cruz right now as far as randos goes, because Andrew on his own blasted out the podcast and got a whole bunch of new followers for us on the page. Meanwhile, Paul, what are you doing? Just complaining because we don't have a show one week? Come on, bro. Step up.
Come on, Paul. Paul, seriously, man. You're losing your rando status. Anyway, it's nice to call out our listeners because we have so few of them.
Healthy challenge, TJ. Healthy challenge.
Oh, my goodness, dude. Oh, my goodness. Oh, man. Oh, well, so, Sonny, I don't have much else to chit-chat about. Are you ready just to get to the show?
Well, what are we doing for the show, TJ?
Oh, that's right. Okay. We're gonna do win of the week. No. I got that out of order. Let me backtrack here. We're gonna do question of the week, which is where I I put Sonny on the spot, ask him a question, and then we're gonna do Tales from the Fringe, which mean you just tell some stories from working with Fringe kids.
Good old fashioned storytelling.
And then the last thing we do is we do win of the week. We look at the different wins that are in our ministry, and that's kind of what we do.
So TJ, enough of this chit chat. Let's get to the show.
Join the conversation on Facebook and Instagram. And when you subscribe to this podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating. We desperately need your approval.
Question Q of the week. This is Sonny doesn't like me to let him know beforehand what the question of the week is. He never wants me to do that, and I always kind of want a little bit of prep. So I kind of just put him on the spot, and I've yet to stump him. So I'm hoping one of these days that he's not going to have an answer for these. But something tells me that Sonny's ability to answer questions with confidence does not ever run out. So here we go. Ready for this, Sonny?
Hold on. Tiger Woods is making his approach shot. Okay, go.
Okay. What are big issues that still need solutions in your field? What are big issues that still need solutions in your field?
Well, TJ, since we only have 54 minutes left, I will go ahead and start with this one. Engagement. I think in my field, in drug and alcohol counseling, a lot of kids are referred to programs due to the court system. And so what that does is that automatically sets up a barrier that the counselor has to overcome in order to even get to the actual counseling part, right? And so it'd be one thing if a kid comes and says, hey, I need some help. And like we joke like, oh man, that'd be so easy to work with kids like that who are like, they want the help. They're coming to you for guidance and you could help them and they'd follow through with it for the most part. But in my line of work, we have to actually convince them that being there is a good thing and then following through with the treatment recommendations and problems and objectives and all that kind of stuff or solving the problems is actually a good thing as well. And so, and what I see is I see a lot of counselors disregarding that and simply thinking that like, oh, since you're referred to me or since you have to come here, I don't have to spend any time engaging you. It's expected that you engage me, and therefore if you don't, it's on you and shame on you, you kid. And I can't stand that because so much of our program is built around engagement, you know. It's like attraction, engagement, then therapy, and then you turn it around to the community and do stuff there. But if you don't have something in your program to even be attractive to a kid, right? A couch, PlayStation, events, whatever, it has to be attractive. And then once they're there, it has to be hospitable, right? Like they have to feel welcomed there. They have to feel that they're being heard, they're being engaged, that you understand the world from their perspective, and then you get to the treatment part. So many people just want to jump into treatment and say, oh, they didn't respond well, so let's kick them out and stuff like that. And I can't stand that, man. So I would say 100% on my end, it would be learning how to engage and making your program attractive to kids. Yeah,
I think that there's a couple things there that I think just translate so well to even where I do stuff, work in the church, and the idea that, you know, when you get kids, it's oftentimes they have to be there, you know? And so you're already kind of starting from like a negative, right? Like
exactly, yeah, you're starting from a negative.
Yeah, and so it's not like these kids chose into your program, right? We're in youth ministry for the most part, you know, students come there because they want to come there, but there is this caveat. There is this one thing, and it is the high-end church kid whose parents are making them come to this thing, right?
Yeah.
And I can always tell because their engagement is so different. It is so different.
They're going to show you they don't want to be there, bro.
Yep. They're going to undermine everything you do. And it's weird because it's like every other kid wants to be there, and then there's these few kids who don't want to be there, and they're going to make everything you do hard, you know? And for me, like the way I answer that question is I always try to encourage I on both sides of the spectrum. I tell parents, first of all, don't make your kid come to youth group. Don't make them. We want them to want to be here, and we do a good enough job on the attraction level things. We do a good enough job on building the crowd that, you know, if your student doesn't want to be here, there's other things that are going on in their life, and when they're ready, this is going to be a good place for them. And then on the other side of that, I always tell them, you know, hey, don't use youth group as a punishment. Like, don't take it away from them when they're in trouble, right? Like, so because this whole thing is built on people wanting to be there. And so that's a long way for me to segue back to you. And I think that's a really, really hard thing because, you know, you're getting these students that don't want to be there. And then you have to make them own that program. And you got to make them own that program. So, Sonny, what is a strategy that you've engaged to make them own that program?
We use a lot of motivational interviewing, and we say, you know, so right off the bat, when I'm doing an assessment with a kid who doesn't want to be there, instead of saying, well, what did you do to get here? I say, why do other people think you need to be here? And that completely like lowers their guard. It doesn't put them on the defense, and it allows them to kind of complain about the PO or the judge or their parent, but also it gives me insight into what's going on because they know, obviously. And so, you know, a kid will be like, oh, my mom thinks I smoke too much weed. So obviously he's there because he smokes too much weed, right? or smokes weed. And he doesn't see it as a problem, even though he's failing all his classes. He's changed all his friends. He's not going to school, you know, but it just lowers their defenses and allows them to kind of like, hey, this guy isn't attacking me. He's letting me speak for me. And then what I do is when I'm building their treatment plan, instead of saying, all right, you're going to do these classes and this many sessions and this, I say, hey, here's what our program offers. Here's a good amount of time that I'm going to know if you can stay clean or not. Here's what we offer. What do you want to do? And I let them pick. And I let them pick from one group a week, and if it's the basketball group, just to start engagement, fine. If it's music group or if it's other groups, fine. I let them kind of choose their engagement and then let them own it. And instead of forcing them into it, if I let them choose it, if they have to be there, we agree to that. And letting them choose what they want to do while they're there, it allows them to kind of go at their own pace and feel it out. And then I let culture take over. Because if you've built a good enough program, your culture will do that job for you, right? Like you don't have to. I mean, you can. Obviously, you're leading it, and you're kind of the main person in it, and you're also raising others up to be those main people. But your culture can oftentimes, at least ours does, transforms that right after. Like so many times, DJ, and you're a big guy on this too. I know. Kid will come in, doesn't want to be there. I'll engage him, I'll make my jokes, whatever, be funny, whatever. But then the culture takes over, and then they want to be there. And then so many times they don't want to leave. Last Friday I was in the schools all day, came back, and there was 4 former clients there. Like 4 former kids on probation, didn't want to be there, went through the program, and now like months later, they just show up to say hi. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's culture. Culture does that.
Yeah. I love that, Sonny. I think that there's some really great things there that we could probably translate back into just the church world. Is that you start in this negative, so you just allow there to be options right off the bat. Like that's that idea of what's that huge book?
Choose Your Own Adventure books?
No, not Choose Your Own Adventure, but that's kind of what it is.
But it is kind of, yeah.
Netflix has got like Choose Your Own videos now. Have you watched any of these? It's kind of crazy.
Oh, they have the Bear Grylls thing where you have like a controller or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. You literally control what he does. And I was watching with my kids the other day, and there's this thing where it's like, should I eat this poop or not eat this poop? I was sitting here thinking, like, who's going to make him not eat his poop? Like, what?
Oh, yeah.
And it's super funny. But anyway,
poor Bear, he has to eat a lot of poop.
Yeah, totally, man. But yeah, no, there's that idea that, you give them the option. So that thing that doesn't feel like an option, all of a sudden now they have options. And so it didn't feel like freedom at first, and now it does feel like freedom. That doesn't work with everyone. Some kids are just gonna be like, I don't want to be here no matter what. But giving them options right up the front, gives them, I wouldn't even call it the illusion, but actually gives them the choice of how they want to engage with how they want to engage with the whole thing. And so I think that's huge, and I think that's a good thing. And then just so for people, you always talk about this motivational interviewing. Can you just give a real quick explanation on what motivational interviewing is?
It's just a kind of an approach to counseling. So there's lots of different things in there and stuff like that. And so one of the big premises is roll with resistance. When a kid's fighting against you, just roll right through it. Don't give them anything to fight. And then they can't fight anything. Always give empathy. Empathy goes a long way. Develop discrepancy. So when a kid is saying, well, I don't have a problem with weed. So you say, all right, well, why do other people think you have a problem? Well, I'm failing my classes in school, and my parents don't like me smoking it. And I say, okay, so you like smoking weed, but it's causing problems in school and causing problems with your parents. So what do you do with that? And so when you do that, you develop discrepancy. And then you put it back on them to describe the discrepancy and kind of come up with the problem. So instead of the counselor saying, well, you have a problem because of X, Y, and Z, you kind of lay things out there and let them come up with the problem, let them come up with the discrepancy on their own. And then there's more buy-in, like how many times have somebody said, to me and you, hey, you need to lose some weight, but you can know you're that, but until you're ready, until you're motivated enough, you're not going to do anything and stuff, And so motivational interviewing, for short, it's called MI. It's just about getting the person to be internally motivated to speak the things, to build the motivation themselves and stuff. And then kind of how you come at it with the questions about what do other people think you need to be here and stuff. It's just all that.
Yeah, that's a great name for it too, because we use it in the church too. And it's just like, instead of if you could ask a question that can make a student say the point, it's way better than saying the point.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's steering people with questions. All right. Well, so I would say, Sonny, and to kind of jump in here on this question is, in youth ministry, there is this, the one thing, the one question, the one thing that needs to be solved in our field. And I think there probably are some people out there who are doing this right, but for the most part, it just happens everywhere that I've seen, in good situations, in bad situations, is that youth ministry tends to be this siloed thing in the churches. And it's a weird thing, right? Like there's not a whole lot of other pastors on staff who are usually asked to run like a church within a church or organization within an organization, you know? And so because of that, like, because, you know, you're doing your own worship, because you're doing your own talks, because you're doing, you know, your own events and your own fundraising a lot of the time, there's this pressure that you kind of always feel like you're running like your own little organization. But then, you know, you're under the umbrella of this other organization. And when those are all in alignment, it's never an issue. Because like right now in my life, I feel like those are all in alignment. But too many times in my history and too many times in the guys that I got to work with, those go out of alignment so quick. And it's because of the siloed nature, the satellited nature of youth ministry. And, you know, it's like, it's not like people do it because they have hate in their heart or they're vindictive or they, you know, they want to do their own thing. But it just happens. Like you make some decisions about your program, and all of a sudden it looks a lot like you, and not so much like the church you're working for, and that is a huge problem. That's a problem that I see oftentimes, and the church's answer to that oftentimes is to get a new youth guy, and the youth guys' answer to that sometimes is either push harder or go find a church that, you know, better represents them. I wish there was a better answer than those two answers. I think that's the big problem there, is that when things go out of alignment, there's an expectation that the youth ministry and the youth worker just need to change their ways. And in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases, you know, there needs to be room on both sides for them to come together. And I guess we've seen this quite a bit, me and you, Sonny, of that alignment issues. And so I would say, yeah, I think that the siloed nature of youth ministry, the organization within an organization, the youth ministry as its own thing, is a question that still has.
What's the solution? Like, how do you, or maybe whose responsibility does it fall on to correct that, and then how do you correct that?
Well, I think that, I mean, here's the thing: is it's a question that still needs to be asked. So I don't know if I know the answer to this. I'm working hard at staying in alignment and you know, concentrating on, you know, what our church's values and mission is. We don't a couple strategies that I've engaged, Sonny, is we don't have a different mission statement in the youth ministry. Our mission statement's exactly the same as the church's one, to help people meet, know, and follow Jesus. That's Grace Point's thing. So across the board, we in this case, we haven't given the youth group its own name. Like I've done that in the past, but here it's just Grace Point Youth Ministries. That's what it is. You know, sometimes I think when you give it a different name, it can do all the good things that you want it to do, where it gives identity and it builds culture and does that stuff. But oftentimes it takes you a little bit further away from, you know, the organization that's, you know, gainfully employing you. And so those are a couple just really basic ones that I've engaged in, and I think those work pretty well. But I don't know. I don't know if there is a huge answer for this. I think that there's some guys on the other extreme that would look at this and say, you know, youth ministry is a modern invention, and, you know, we just all need to be in church together. And if I'm going to be honest, and this is somebody who, you know, makes my living from this, I think there's some merit to what they're talking about how families need to be at church together and the engagement of this thing. I think in a broken world it doesn't work that well, because both me and you know, didn't have the intact families. So we would have never gotten reached by the church if that was their only strategy. So there needs to be a strategy like youth ministry to reach the fringe kids. And so I guess that's. I guess my thoughts aren't incredibly formulated around that, Sonny, but those are just some strategies that I'm employing. I think every youth worker, especially youth pastors, they're going to feel that a little bit. And just my question to you, Sonny, is do you feel that a little bit? You kind of run the youth department of that thing, and you actually, you know, run it off campus. So do you feel that tension of alignment?
Yeah, for sure. And I think you said something that was kind of that I struggle with and have recently come around to. It's the naming thing. Like, you know, so many youth groups, and depending on which generation and which genre and which years you started in youth ministry, you know, all the names of the porch or the attic, or, you know, or, you know, all those things that kind of happened. And then now, you know, it's the one word, the has been taken out, and so many, and youth groups have been named And I like what you said about how you haven't renamed it. It's just the name of the church. So something I've done, I work for Bridgeway Recovery Services, and we started Camp Respawn several years ago, and we just threw out the name, and it was kind of a cool name, meant come back to life, yada yada. And then the music thing started happening, and so I created a SoundCloud, and I was struggling with to name it. So at first I named it UA Beats, because we give UAs when we make beats. So we named it UA Beats, and then I called it No Dad Studios, because no kid ever comes to me who has a father. And then
you guys went pretty dark right there out the bat. You know?
Yeah.
No dad.
No dad. You know, it was NODAD.
Oh my God.
And then I changed it to Respawn Studios. And then I remember talking with my boss once, talking about it, saying, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. Are you cool with that?" And he goes, "Yeah, but where's the name Bridgeway?" And I was like, well, this is cooler. And he goes, what did he say? He goes, "Don't forget the mothership," or I don't know, something like that. Don't forget where you came from, or something like that. But it made a lot of sense. And then in no way was I ever trying to like go on my own thing and do my own thing. I just wanted to be creative and capture the kids, capture their attention and stuff. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, man, that's kind of messed up on my part to do that, you know? And so now I started with like Bridgeway Respawn Studios and Bridgeway this, and now I just call it, just Bridgeway Recovery Studios, I think. And so I think that's big. And I think that's whether intentional or not, it can come across as, oh, you're doing your own thing over there. Yeah. Okay, we need to keep our eye on you. You're kind of rogue. Or what are you doing over there and stuff like that, you know? And especially for our program, because we are off-site, I have to even more stay in alignment. And so, like, one of the things I've done for years is whenever we go on trips, right, I'll take kids to the coast or camping or whatever, they'll be like, "Hey, thanks, Sonny, thanks, Sonny, thanks, Sonny," and I'll be like, "Thank Bridgeway, like Bridgeway did this, like it wasn't me, Bridgeway did this, you know." And so always giving kind of credit, kind of to the organization, and kind of like how you do with your faith, like whenever I'm praised for something, I'm like, man, thank the Lord, because I shouldn't even be here, and so I think the danger comes when you start taking credit all to yourself and not bringing in those who have helped you, especially the parent organization or the company you work for and stuff like that,
Yep. Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. And I think that, there's hard conversations around all of this. But at the same time, I do think that, as youth ministers, as youth workers, it is our job to be the ones. We can move a little faster than the churches oftentimes we work for. So that means that I think that oftentimes for us to make the changes is probably the more healthy way to do things. And so, I think alignment is important. And I think that, in future episodes, we're going to talk about what happens when the wheels come off because alignment is so bad. But prevention is cheaper than cure. So get yourself in alignment. And if you can't get yourself in alignment, maybe it's time to start looking around. Anyway, let's move on.
All right, TJ, Tales from the Fringe. You were in a foreign country. You got any good stories from that?
Tales from the Fringe. Yeah, I was in the Yucatan state of Mexico. If you're looking at Mexico on a map, it'd be the little tip that kind of comes back up towards Florida, Cuba area. We were over there for that. We did a lot of awesome things. We did VBS at night, and we built the church during the day. It was kind of the everything mission trip. We did the Bible studies, we did the work projects, we did it all. We helped people who were in need, and it was a really good trip. And yeah, you're right. My tale of the Fringe is that the idea that our students and I guess this is going to be like a point and a story here, so forgive me if I don't get
you are
too...
a pastor.
I know.
It's not 3 points, though, huh?
No, I won't give you a 3.1 here.
First prayer, 3 points, prayer done.
Yeah.
Worship team, come on up now. Cue the music.
Here is my tale from the Fringe, right? Like, so at VBS every night, our director, the guy who I put in charge of directing this trip, who did a great job, Mark Peace did a great job at that, and he wanted me to share a 10-minute little message at the end of all of our VBS that would be translated through a translator. Now, the first time I heard that, I was like, I don't really want to do that. I don't like that. I've done that before when we were in Nicaragua, and it's just so clunky. And so I wasn't really loving it. And so I did it on the first night, and I still didn't love it because it was very clunky. I did it on the second night, and I still didn't love it because it was clunky and it didn't work. Third night, like, the kids weren't even listening at all. So it was kind of on the last night that I decided, like, I got to pivot this because it's just not working. It's just there's something being lost in translation, literally. Like, this isn't how they do things here. And so I thought, the pivot needs to be made here. And so I started thinking about, like, all the different things that God had taught us on this trip. And one of the things that he started to teach us was there's a few things that are universal. There's a few things that are universal. Like, language is not universal. We speak different languages in different regions of the world, and that's a big divider. Weather is not universal. It's different weather down there. It's different, but there are these things running through. There's these points, these themes, these. It's just this weave that God has weaved through all human beings that make us the same thing, no matter what our language is, or the color of our skin, or the country that we grew up in, or the borders that kind of protect us. There are these things, and a few of them are laughter. Laughter is one of those ones. Stories, but not like in language. And here's the crazy thing is you can tell stories without language, which is a crazy idea, I know, but I watched as our students would take chalk out of like the thing and they just start drawing pictures for the kids to see on the ground, and the kids would start drawing their own pictures, and they were doing this really cool thing of like telling stories back and forth. And me, I'm obsessed, probably obsessed with the idea of storytelling. I love the different venues of storytelling. I love, film and storytelling. I love just straight, public speaking storytelling. I love it all, and so I thought, this picture idea, this is an idea. And so before the last one during their small groups, I said, hey guys, I need your help with this week's message. And I had every one of our students draw a picture on the front and back of a piece of paper. And one of them was their life kind of before Christ, or a lesson that they didn't know before Christ. And then the back was their lesson, but it wasn't with words, Sonny. It's like the cardboard testimony, but without words. It was just pictures,
nice,
like pictures of, like you draw in a kid's school. And so one by one, I had them come up on there as music played and just kind of show the kids the picture. And then at the end, they just would give the picture to some kid in the crowd. And man, that worked. It was so cool to watch. I'm a baby, so I start crying at anything. So I started crying when I was watching our students kind of flip those pictures over, and the kids looking at it with anticipation and getting so excited when someone would hand them something at the end of it. And so, here we are, in a different culture, in kind of a third world country, separated by so much and so many things that make us different. But we can still tell stories, and we can still tell the greatest story, the story of Christ redeeming lives, and more than a gospel track, in their own language. Some kid got a picture of a life changed, and they know what it is, from some Americans who came down and helped them out. So yeah, that's my tell from the Fringe, and I think that if we can figure out a way to get to the universals, to the things that unite us, that make us the image of God, we can make some real differences in the world, and that's even with people who speak our own language.
That's cool, man. And I think you did exactly what I talked about on the question of the week answer. Is you found a way to engage. You didn't sit there and say, well, they're not getting it, you were like, this isn't working. I need to pivot. I need to do something here. And then you did that, and you engaged them. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, stories are everything, and you can tell stories without speaking them, Yep. And I think that's just what you did. Recently, I've been making these little videos for kids who graduate this program in the courts, and they're like all about them, and then the courts love them, and I'm like, you're a video guy on the side. They're nothing special. It's like a minute and a half, mostly B footage, and then the kid reads their own story of recovery over the top of it.
Yeah.
Super easy edit. You can do it on your phone, and yet people are loving them. And I'm like, why you like at first I was like, there's nothing to this. I was almost embarrassed to show it. And then yet people are digging them because it's that visual portrayal of a story, you know?
Yeah,
and,
storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah, and any way to do it, do it. You know, it's
Yeah.
such a powerful thing. And I once heard somebody say, a lot of people have said this, you know, like you can refute a lot of things about the Bible and Jesus and all that kind of stuff, but you can't refute a story. You can't refute testimony.
Yeah.
And everybody has that, you know, whether it is in the church or not in the church. I tell kids all the time, like, your story is everything. Your story is inspirational. I was having this talk with this kid on Thursday. He's 19. He was in a youth correctional facility for 3 years of his life, and he's now struggling with, does he stay in the gang or does he move on from the gang? I'm like, bro, I was like, I can have you in front of schools talking about this, having respect from the kids because they would recognize that you've done it. You could have a powerful testimony if you want it, you know? And he was just like, seriously, me? I'm like, yeah, you. And it was pretty cool. So good job, man. That's cool.
Yep, for sure, man. Thank you.
All right, my story. Which one was I going to tell here? I'll tell a short one. Okay, I'll tell. Yeah. So this happened years ago when I was first kind of in ministry, volunteering at youth group. We did this one movie night, or no, let's see. No, we had like an event, and then afterwards, me and two other youth leaders went to the movies. And then we left straight from the church, went to the movies, and then came back. And prior to this, we started having some kids kind of coming to the church, and they were kind of ruffians and stuff like that, and we didn't really know kind of what to think of them. And again, this was early on in my career, and so yeah. So we go to the movies, we come back, and the church was thrashed. Like somebody had broken in the church or stayed behind and like thrashed it, like wrote stuff on the pulpit, took toilet paper and threw it everywhere, and just did a bunch of stuff, and really just kind of messed up the church. So then we start playing Who Did It? You know, we start being Columbo and trying to figure out who could have done this. And we start going down the list of kids who were there, maybe the list of kids who are like not really engaged and stuff like that. And I just kind of cringed thinking about it because it was such a horrible thing to do.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of start going like, well, yeah, he would have done it, and we totally could see him doing it, you know?
Yeah.
And then we end up getting to this one kid who'd been going to the church for a while.
Yeah.
His parents were in the church, and we just thought because he wasn't engaged that he had to have done it. And so then we devised this plan to take him to the movies and just engage him and let him know we're on his side, so that way he'll confess and we can all move on. Great plan, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
horrible, dude.
This
Horrible.
This sounds like the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Oh man,
this is awful. Yeah. So then we take him to the movies, and it was such a I can't even fathom I was part of this, man. It was such a phony engagement strategy. It was awkward. I'm pretty sure he was like, why do all three of these guys want to take me to the movies all of a sudden, you know? I don't have a relationship with any of them.
Yeah.
And I remember just sitting there in line, just like, so yeah, you know, how's life? How's school? Are you angry about anything? You know, things pretty good at home.
Yeah.
Went to the movie afterwards, went and got Wendy's. And then we dropped him off, and then I remember we met afterwards, and we were all like, "Do we think he did it?" And we were like, "I don't know, we can't really tell." And then a week later, the one kid who was like the kid who was kind of had a rough background and was coming to the youth group randomly, turns out he was the one. He told his buddy, and they found out. And so it was like the most obvious choice was the one who did it. Yeah. And yet, if we would have just waited and let kind of God's timing work itself out, it would have been resolved. Mm-hmm. But then here's the hard part is like, I had to recognize in my own self that I had sought out and judged this other kid and said he must have done it. And I had to live with that. And then he kept coming to youth group. And every time I'd see him, I was like, gosh, I just failed that kid miserably, you know? Mm-hmm. And it was one of those epic fail moments. And it just sucked, you know? And so ever since then, I've just really been like holding out, you know, holding out judgment, and every kid has an opportunity to turn it around, and just careful blaming kids, and yeah, it just sucked, dude. Just a horrible story.
That's that is a pretty horrible
like
story.
telling it.
Well, here's the thing is about it. It's good that you do tell it because, man, have we employed some crappy strategies over the years. I mean, that's how you get good at this, right? Like everybody knows this. We all know this as humans. Like the first thing we learn is like we learn by failing at this thing, but we still think, okay, I'm not gonna. I mean, here's the thing: is I'm 12 years deep in a full-time youth worker job, and I still make mistakes. I still make bad strategies on things, that's why people who've been in the game for a long time are better than you at it. That's just why, because they've learned from their mistakes, and that's also why some people who've been in the game longer than you have aren't better because they haven't learned from their mistakes. They just keep making those same mistakes over and over again. But good for you for recognizing that was a wonky decision to kind of do that thing. And I love it because I can totally hear in my head like the conversation around that, because I've been in for so long. Is like, we need to relationally engage with him. If
we can't ask him directly. Let's engage him. Let's let his own guilt take over and he'll confess.
Let's let the telltale heart thing happen here. The Edgar Allan Poe
Let's go buy him some
story.
Spicy nuggets and a Baconator from Wendy's. He'll confess after that.
Well, and here's the messed up thing is like, that's the answer beforehand. That's the answer for anything. But just the strategy around like, we're gonna get him to confess because we're going to actually, do these other things. It isn't great. But you know what the other thing is though is that, guys, if you're out there and you're using relationship in a way that's, I don't know, impure,
not healthy or
just not genuine. I would say
if
that
relationship. Or I read in a book once, I think it was Revisiting Relational Ministry.
Yeah,
and it talked about how a relationship with a kid shouldn't be, a therapeutic relationship, a healthy relationship with a kid shouldn't be the means to an end, right? Like you shouldn't engage a kid to get him to make a confession of Christ. You shouldn't engage a kid to get him to do something. The relationship with the kid is the goal, right? That's the main thing. And then from that healthy relationship comes these benefits and stuff like that, right? Like, a lot of stuff happens based on that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, and I kind of struggle with that. I mean, like to some degree, like I hear it, and in my head I go, "That's right, but then at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but what about Jesus? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I saw this.
Yeah, but won't they? I mean, isn't it? They see your life, they know what you're about, and if you're doing your job correctly, you're allowing them the trust and the rapport built up that they'll ask you questions when those difficult moments come.
I absolutely agree with that. And that's totally it. But in my head, I can't squash the idea of like that Jesus is just the side benefit of a good, healthy relationship. Like I feel like
but I don't know if it's a side benefit.
It's I know but that's the thing is like I totally get where you're coming from because we are totally in alignment here. But in my head, like this is what I'm just kind of trying to say is like the way when we frame it up like that, there's something in there that goes, but their relationship with Jesus is more important than their relationship with me. Like that.
Correct.
As much as I like want, that to organically flow, I'm just not as healthy as Jesus. I'm just not as good as Jesus. I'm just not going to be there for them as much as Jesus is going to be there for them.
But then when you have that conversation that you just said right there, eating a burrito at 11:30 at night when they just came to you and said, "My life stinks. How do you keep it together?"
Yeah.
And you tell them that.
Yeah.
Then, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, then it totally works. And I think this is why I'm a pastor and I'm not a counselor, because I really like that idea. I don't want to sell myself short, and I probably just get fired if I was a teacher, if I was a counselor, if I was other place, because I just want to go to Jesus. You know what I mean? Like that's what I want to do with all of I'm doing, which puts me in the right field. It puts me right where I'm supposed to be at. But I'm totally in alignment.
So you're saying I'm in the right field because I don't preach Jesus? Is that what you're saying?
That's basically it. I just I mean, you said it, not me. I mean,
I implied it.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm going to take you out to a burrito and just hope that you come to that conclusion on your own through some motivational interviewing.
Yeah. You can motivationally interview the person to ask the question.
Yeah. Which is funny, because all of this, like we always talk about the organicness of relationship, but every relationship we have with these students comes to us in a non-organic way, non-authentic way.
Yeah.
It's through an organization,
Well, but if you want to go even, every relationship you're in, you benefit from it. Like you marry somebody because you're going to benefit from it. You have friends because we benefit.
Yeah.
I'm friends with you because whenever we walk in the room, I'm the best looking guy. Of the two. So,
that's right. That's. I'm pretty sure that's just not true because I'm so gorgeous. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, and that's why I think the conversation needs to keep happening, and not to sound too millennial and be like the conversation is the most important thing.
Conversations,
yeah, we're just not having the conversation. But I think that because on either side of this, there is, it's a really crazy balancing act. And if you get too far to one side or to get too far to the other side, you end up in some pretty dicey territory. It really is important to constantly self-correct and be like, okay, am I being authentic? Am I pointing them the right things? Am I doing those things? Those are good questions to continually to ask yourself. But
and I think that's just it. Just be authentic. The other night I went to Target and I seen McChickens.
Yeah, McChickens.
Just like at 10 o'clock at night.
Okay, first of all, before we jump in here, McChickens is not a sandwich. It is a person that me and you both know.
Yeah, I can't say his first name though, because for confidentiality. But we can say his nickname.
Yeah.
Anyway, I pull up. I see this moving car, like something moving company, pull into the parking lot. It looks like a car from like Blues Brothers, just barely running. Has the name of the moving company on the side, and I just hear this, Sonny. I look over, it was McChickens, and I was like, "What the heck?" And he just kind of pops out wearing a muscle tee, beard going crazy, he's dirty as all heck. He goes, "Dude, what's up, bro?" And we just started talking in the parking lot there. And then the passenger was another kid that I used to work with years ago. He goes, "Dude, what's up, man?" And it was pretty funny and stuff. So, but I haven't seen him in years, But
yeah.
And then got to talk to him a little bit and exchange text messages afterwards and stuff, But
he is literally
I
one
don't
of
know,
my
but to me,
favorite
that's
kids.
the goal. It's that healthy relationship, I guess, because the field I'm in and stuff, it's that relationships are the answer to broken relationships.
Yep, totally. Relationship is always a good answer, no matter what you're doing in youth work, pointing them to a relationship with God, developing a healthy relationship, networking relationship with other youth workers. It's always a good answer.
We are still listening to the Fringe Youth Worker Podcast.
All right, Ted, win of the week. Win of the week. I think we're going to stop doing the poll. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that the poll. I think we're just gonna let's put it on a break for a little while. let's see if the randos hate that. But yeah, I think
and you don't need any extra like, oh hey, you're so great. We don't need that.
Yeah, we don't need that. And I just keep winning, so it's really just hard for you, I think so.
See, that's what I'm saying. we don't need any more of that. This is for your benefit here.
Yeah, this is for your benefit.
I will be the guy to give up my opportunity and I'll take the high road.
You know what? I'm just gonna err on the side of relationship here and just say, my relationship with Sonny is more important than me winning at life. So yeah, okay.
Is that why you don't want to play me at Smash Bros?
We should play Smash Bros on the show sometime. When we're waiting on that live rig to come in, and once that live rig comes in, we're going to play video games during Win of the Week.
That's basically what we want it for.
Yeah, and I think it'd be awesome during Win of the Week to play Smash Brothers because there's some winning going on.
We could do at the end of the Win of the Week segment. Play
yeah. Anyway, Sonny, what is your Win of the Week?
Win of the Week this week is. We started the whole school thing. So the previous week, I was meeting with a lot of the schools individually, kind of game planning and stuff like that. And then this week, we actually did it. So Monday, I went to my first high school, was there for 5.5 hours, and I met with 13 kids back to 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 back.
Dang.
Pretty intense. They just sat me in a room and they're like, hey, we had 23 incidents of kids using last week. You're going to meet with 14 of them. I was like, all right. So I just sat down every 20 or 30 minutes. They brought a new kid in. And it was weird, man. It was kind of nuts. And then Wednesday went to 2 middle schools. And then Thursday went to another high school. And then Friday went to another high school. And so put in about 20 hours this week at different schools and stuff like that. But it was just kind of the first week of getting that going and kind of getting the vibe and figuring out what that's going to be like. And it was pretty intense. A lot of new faces, and just a lot of new relationships. And met, I think, close to 50 kids this week on top of the 30 kids I already work with. And on my current caseload, plus the other 40 in our program. So just a lot of kids kind of rolling through right now. A lot of new faces and stuff, and just kind of intense. So, it was a cool win, but I found like the last 3 days, I've just been so drained, man. Like my wife noticed, she's like, man, what's going on? And it's just rough, And one of the examples of that is at one of the middle schools, this 12-year-old girl sits down, I'm talking to her, and she had drank or attempted to drink lean, which is codeine mixed with Sprite, really popular in the hip-hop culture right now. And she tried to kill herself. She just poured a whole bottle of cough syrup, which really isn't even lean, whole bottle of cough syrup and some Sprite, drank it all really fast, trying to kill herself.
Wow.
And she wasn't really engaged at all in our session. And so we kind of did some, crisis prevention stuff. I just said, hey, I'll see you in 2 weeks. She goes, yeah, I'll be here. And so that was cool. So that, of all of it, my win of the week in the midst of all that was kind of getting introduced to this 12-year-old girl, and then her, cracked a smile at least one point, really not engaged, but she agreed to meet with me again in a couple weeks. So, so that was cool, but that was kind of one of those ones where you walk away and kind of have a tear in your eye. Like 12 years old, man. Like, ugh, that was rough.
Yeah.
So starting that whole process has been pretty cool. All the counselors at the school's been really open and welcoming and stuff. So that was really neat too.
So do you? That's a lot of work, Sonny. Do you see this as sustainable, or are you going to make some modifications so you don't have to do that?
Yeah. So for the next 2 months, till school ends, I'll be doing this, kind of figuring out the program, how it's going to work, how each school differs from the other school and what their needs are. And then starting and then I'll have the summer break, obviously. And then in September, those 3 months in the summer, I'll kind of build up the program and build up how we're going to do it and the procedures and all that. And then I'll have other counselors taking over next September.
Yeah. Well, awesome.
Just kind of oversee it and stuff like that.
Okay, that's good. Awesome stuff, Sonny. In youth work, there's certain things that give you energy, and there's certain things that take it away, and sometimes the most meaningful things tend to take energy away. And that's not a diss. That's not like we should avoid it, but there are those suckers, that take energy away, and I'm in the middle of something like that. I mean, like just coming back from Mexico. Like, I've just dragged my feet on everything this week, getting everything done last minute, and just like, I need more time to recover. And I didn't take the time to recover. So that's it's on me. But I just feel like I'm in that lull of that kind of zapped energy kind of feel to things. We're recording this podcast at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning because of me. Because I just like, let's kick it back. I totally feel what that is. My one of the week is around, going to Mexico. However, at the beginning of 2 years ago, I set a goal. I try to set resolutions every year and set goals and try to obtain those. And I do those professionally and personally. And this was a professional and a personal goal. I set 2 years ago that I wanted to give 25% of the ministry away. So 25% of my job I wanted to give away. And that's not like, obviously not giving 25% of my paycheck away, but 25% of my job away to volunteers to kind of reproduce things. And I set that on 2 years ago, and I miserably failed at it for a year. Like I stunk at it. Like I figured out that like I really like to be, and for somebody, I count myself to be a pretty chill human being. Like that's in most ways, I think I'm pretty calm, cool, and collective. you could probably testify to that or not that, but I will say that about
unless
myself.
we're playing Foursquare.
Yeah. There's a few things where I get really competitive. However, I found out that I really like to control things, and sometimes, and because I can do things better, I have the justification of control, and that doesn't grow ministries. It just grows to your own capacity, which might be a big capacity, but at the same time, there is this.
Yeah, but then you burn out, and then you don't allow other people to step in. Yeah.
We do burn out and do those things. So for me, the win this time was giving away the mission trip, and the mission trip being something that me and my wife have planned for the last few years. But I gave that away to a volunteer to do. To be our director for that trip and to coordinate and to do all that stuff. Now, here's the thing: when you give things away, that usually doesn't mean you're out of, you don't have to do the work on it. It usually means that you have to do the work of reproducing and helping and assisting and getting that person to that awesome place of, being able to run a trip. And so this trip was complete. I came on it. I did the video on it. I was there and I did the things, but I was really not in the driver's seat. And that is hard, but so healthy. And so for me, giving away the trip was my win of the week in that way.
Nice. That's cool, man.
And
that's a hard thing to do too.
Yeah, it is a hard thing to do, but at the same time, I think that I think it's healthy and it's the right thing to do. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we're friends, is because a lot of times we're doing parallel things without even knowing it, and then same thing, like, all the groups I run, and I'm just feeling it. There's no way I can keep up with all the stuff I'm doing, and maintain sanity, and so I'm trying to figure out what I can not do, and what I should focus on, and just continuing that process of learning to say no to certain things and say yes to other things and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's hard, especially because if it's something you're passionate about and you love and you know how to do it. And one of the things I'm realizing is that oftentimes I hold people up to the standard that I hold myself up to now after being involved working with kids for 13 years.
Yeah,
instead of looking at their growth and seeing where they're at in their growth and working with kids, and then scaling my expectations of them to where they're at, and then walking with them up. So it's almost like, it's weird because I think I'm so good at working with youth and meeting them where they're at and walking with them up the ladder, but I'm not there yet working with like volunteers or other counselors, meeting them where they're at and walking them up. I still think like, well, why'd you do that? And this is the way you should have done it, instead of going, okay, they're at this stage in their learning process. I need to meet them where they're at there and walk them up just like I do with kids and stuff, And
I think one of the most rewarding things in youth work is watching one of your, I don't know how else they'll say this, but one of your like proteges or one of your disciples go out and do something amazing. And things that you wouldn't even think of them doing. And it really, you get that proud papa feel to things when that happens, And so I think that it is rewarding and it is the right thing to do, but we always balance the idea. And I even have the guilt, the feeling of guilt for not like doing the stuff, like, oh, am I being lazy here? And there's just that, no, this is the right thing to do. Healthy ministry, healthy organizations reproduce themselves in other people, and other people become the champions of your cause. And that's kind of what I did. But my one of the week is kind of a sad note because that leader is just got a job in Washington, D.C. And so all that work I did to reproduce myself in them, Washington, D.C. is going to get to.
Hey, maybe they'll go save Trump.
Yeah, maybe somewhere in there. But yeah, good job, Mark. Peace.
All right, T. I think that's it, bro.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome.
Done.
Yeah, I think that ends this week's podcast. This early morning version of.
Or should we do another hour since we missed a week?
No,
I'm sure that will make your wife happy.
No, I'm. Yeah, she's She constantly wants us to get down to 40 minutes, and we blew through that this time too. So, hey guys, go join us on the conversation. Facebook, Instagram. We love to hear you there. There's a lot of chatter on the page last week, mostly because we weren't there. So, hey, why don't we keep the chatter up on the weeks that we are, actually speaking to you guys.
Hell hath no fury like a score in Rando.
That's exactly right. And we're gonna get Annie Owens back. She's been on like a Lent thing here, so she hasn't been engaging because she's not on any social media. But after next week, we got one of our best randos coming back our way. So that'll be a cool thing. Paul Craven, you've been given the torch.
The challenge.
Got to share our podcast. And randos, that's one of the best ways for us to grow this page is to grow this podcast is if you guys share it with your friends. It grows just like youth groups grow. Invite your friends, bring your friends, tell your friends about us because we'd like to speak to other fringe youth workers for sure.
And look for the podcast on anywhere podcasts are found. The Fringe Youth Worker Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, all those jazzes. And TJ, you have anything else to say, TJ? Anything else?
Nope.
Deuces.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Fringe Youth Worker Podcast. Don't believe anything my dad said.